What's up, guys? Welcome to Knockers on the Bottom. I'm your host, J Mill. J Miller, if you like. So let's get into it. Boy, was I wrong about my score prediction for the Dallas Cowboys. Home opener, they really did not show up well today. That's kind of disappointing. But some of the things that I talked about on Friday were exactly what happened. If you guys were listening, you know I talked about the Saints are going to attack on the perimeter. That's where they're going to attack the Cowboys. They're going to get some screens in there, which they got plenty. I think they threw less screens than I talked about, but they still threw a number of screens and had some very good success. Also, running wise, I mean, they ran outside to the right side, they ran outside to the left side. Whatever way they wanted to run the ball, they pretty much got it. They didn't do much directly up the middle, which is nice. When they did try to attack the middle at certain points in the game, I felt like that's when they were least successful, which tells you that Mozzie Smith, Linville Joseph, Jordan Phillips, Osa Digizua, they were doing their job in the run games as far as that aspect. But on the edges, I talked about this being a big game for our linebackers and for our cornerbacks on the outside tackling. And we didn't see enough good tackling by the linebackers or by the cornerbacks. And also, it looked like no matter where the Cowboys lined up Micah Parsons, that's the edge that the Saints decided to attack. Now, I'll get to see a little bit more once I go back and rewatch the game on film and kind of get to break it down a little bit better. But continually during the game, over the course of the game, what I saw was if Micah Parsons was lined up on the right side at defensive end, well, then the Saints ran it to the outside where Micah Parsons was. They pulled guys, they pinned them, they trapped them, they double teamed them. They got up to the upper level and got to the cornerbacks, got to the linebackers, and had those reach blocks and those cutoff blocks. And they got out on the edge and they killed us with it. So that was one of the things that I thought would be how they would attack. And I thought the speed of, an Eric Kendricks, a Maris Leofau, a DeMarvion Overshone, a, Damone Clark would help, navigate some of those situations and make it beneficial for the Cowboys. I also thought that we would play more larger defensive ends most times. Like I thought there would be more Marshawn Nealon on the outside on one side, and then Demarcus Lawrence on the other side, and then maybe you might rotate in, Chauncey Golston on the outside, and I thought Carl Lawson might be brought up this game to play on the outside as well. But it looked like none of that was going the way that it should. Now, I did see times where Nealon was in the game on the outside, and he was getting washed as well. So even though Michael Parsons, I do want to give him a large part of the blame as far as what was happening, as far as them running at him and the Cowboys not necessarily doing anything special to protect him on the outside, as putting him in bad situations. It didn't matter who we had lined up at defensive end. I mean, they ran at Demarcus Lawrence with success. They ran at Marshawn Nealon with success. They ran at Michael Parsons with success. They ran on Chauncey Golston with success. So it kind of didn't matter who was lined up out there. The Cowboys just didn't have an answer. And one of the other disappointments in this game was the lack of adjustments. The Cowboys saw that happening, and instead of possibly adjusting the defense on obvious running downs or when the Saints loaded up with some heavy personnel, they just kind of kept doing what they were doing, the same thing, and just hoped that the guys would play better. You could tell early on from this Sunday that the Cowboys were not going to be able to turn that game in a different way. One of the other things that I observed was Derek Carr, and I talked about this. I thought the Saints would have some success scoring points. I didn't think it would be like the Cleveland game, but I did think the Cowboys would be able to get, a few defensive stops. Well, I was totally wrong in that aspect too. The Cowboys couldn't get a defensive stop at all. The Saints scored on their first 6 drives. And not only did they score, they got touchdowns. Every single time they needed a big play, they came up with a big play. I only remember maybe 2 or 3 third downs that Derek Carr even faced. For the most part, he was in second down every time. So he was first, second down, first down. First, second down, first down. And that's a recipe for disaster. We're not built to play from behind. the type of offense that we have, it's not like years past where the Cowboys could, fast strike in the blink of an eye. A lot of teams are kind of looking at our offense and saying, hey, man, we got to back up with Brandon Cooks. We got to back up with CeeDee Lamb. We'll let those guys, catch their balls underneath, and then we'll rally and tackle. We'll keep our two safeties deep and, kind of let that go from there. So our offense wasn't really effective with trying to play from behind. And I know that most of the people listening will say, hey, that's pretty much every NFL offense, right? No NFL offense is meant to play from 21-6 like the Cowboys were down, in the first half of the game. But they did have a nice play to CeeDee Lamb where CeeDee Lamb, caught a ball on the outside to the right, to the offense's right, to the defensive left, near the sideline, and the cornerback undercut the route, and the safety overran the route over the top. He was able to split the difference and then run it in for a touchdown. That was awesome. At that time, the game was 21-13. The Cowboys actually had a legitimate shot to get back into the game. These are the type of situations where when we get into, January football or playoff football, this is where you want to see growth. Now, I'm not the type of person to make too many proclamations based on, September 14th or 15th of the NFL season. I mean, this is the time where teams need to grow their most. I distinctly remember the 49ers starting off, 1-5 and then trading for Christian McCaffrey and basically not losing a game until the NFC Championship that year. So the way you go about it early in the season, you're trying to learn about your team. You're trying to build consistency. But it is troubling to see the inconsistency from week 1 to week 2 and then have a team like Baltimore, even though they lost today, have a team like Baltimore coming in next week because now, Baltimore is 0-2. They're going to be hungry. They're going to be coming hard, trying to get that win. And the Dallas Cowboys need to be thoroughly prepared unless they're going to fall to 0-2. The Dallas Cowboys won 8 straight games at home last season, 16-1, over their last 17. And now with this loss to the Saints, they've lost their last 2 home games. And now with Baltimore coming in, it could easily be losing their last 3 home games. Also, the safety play on that touchdown to Shaheed is just unacceptable. I watched, 2 really good safeties, Malik Hooker and Donovan Wilson. Donovan Wilson took such a bad angle inside, and Malik Hooker took such a bad angle outside. I know Shaheed is fast, but I know if I know he's fast, I certainly know that the Cowboys have looked at it on film over and over and over again. And I know they saw that touchdown pass last week to Shaheed basically on the same exact play and knew that, hey, this guy, if he comes screaming down the field, we need to get as deep as possible, as quick as possible. But, this is the problem you run into with a quarterback so different from the quarterback that you saw week 1. So week 1, they saw a quarterback that couldn't, complete a pass. He held onto the ball. He doesn't have much pocket awareness. Really, really bad at getting rid of the ball on time. So that fed into the Cowboys' hands. This week, they saw a quarterback that was really, really good at getting the ball out on time. And I knew that would be a problem, which is why I predicted the Saints to score at least 24 points. But holy crap, that's not a problem where the team should be throwing a 40-burger and almost scoring 50 points on you. I mean, that is one of those things where it's going to be on the Cowboys to really look themselves in the mirror when it comes to the team this season. Now, I did predict 9-8 before the season began. I still hold strong to that, but I didn't think that this would be one of the losses. So, as a Cowboys fan, I'm a fan. You guys know there's always going to be a game that we lose in the season that we didn't expect to lose. I'm looking at you, Arizona, last year. And there's always going to be a game that we win that we don't expect to win. I'm looking at you, Detroit. So there's going to be some of those games throughout the course of the season. It will regress to the mean. The Cowboys will pick up a win somewhere where, I had it marked as a loss, or we'll be talking about it going into the week and I'll pick the other team. And then all of a sudden the Cowboys will be able to pull it out and play better than we expected. So all in all, I do think the offensive line had one of their worst games I know it's only been 2 games in, but from the preseason on to now, and even looking at late last year, I mean, take your pick. Cooper Beebe had a penalty today for being illegally downfield. Tyler Guyton had multiple penalties today. Zach Martin got hurt. Tyler Smith, he's freaking an all-pro. And he got beat for pressure. So it's just one of those things where whatever could go wrong did go wrong for the Cowboys today. Whatever game plan they had, they got to throw that out the window. I know a lot of times these motion offenses and these offenses that run that zone and that QBX system that we talked about that's from the San Francisco 49ers tree, I did kind of go into that whole history of how the Saints got their offensive coordinator. If you didn't remember that, go back and listen a couple of episodes ago. Gave a little bit of insight into where this guy came from. So we knew that there could be a little bit of trouble, but man, the Cowboys had no counters. They had no counters. And I know it's early in the season. You don't want to show your whole hand, but when you're getting your ass kicked, you need to show something. So it just was a butt whooping from top to bottom. They didn't even have Marshawn Lattimore, yet we couldn't find a way to consistently get our passing game going. I know we didn't have Jake Ferguson, but I thought Schoonmaker actually played pretty well. He had some nice catches in the game, especially early in the game. But it looked like as the game went along, further, that our offense just got less and less confidence, and we kind of just went into a shell. Once again, this is the second week in a row that happened. I know last year that happened to us for a few weeks, and then we came out after the bye week and came out firing. But that probably had more to do with who the Cowboys were playing after the bye week than them necessarily making a whole bunch of adjustments. So we need to go back to the drawing board because we run the same type of offense that we're getting our ass kicked by. We run the same type of offense, the West Coast offense, that the Saints run, that the 49ers run, that the Green Bay Packers run. This is also what the Cowboys run. But we run a much less creative version of it, and it seems like it's so much easier for defenses to stop our version of the West Coast offense than the Rams version. Although the Rams got their ass kicked today too, so I don't know if I should be talking so much about that. Now let's get to a little bit of bright spots in the game. So one of the bright spots is CeeDee Lamb. It was nice to see him have that catch on the sideline and for him to get down the field and show some of his open field ability. He showed some speed there because once he broke through those 2 tackles, there were still a couple of people around him, but nobody was catching him. And it was nice to see that open field speed on display. And like I said, at that time, he brought us back to within a 1-score game. He made it, the type of game where it was like, okay, we might be able to get back in this. And honestly, maybe if the defense gets a stop right there and gets the ball back to our offense and it's still 21-13, maybe we do get to make a play. But that never happened. Our defense fell asleep. They didn't have, like I said, no sort of resistance. I mean, we were basically toilet paper out there. But he was a bright spot. I'm glad to see the CeeDee Lamb getting his shit together. And as we kind of go here, I expect it to even get better and better, even though he's going to have a tough challenge this week facing the Baltimore Ravens. Also, another bright spot, I mentioned him a little bit earlier, Luke Schoonmaker, man. I thought he came to play. I thought he made some nice catches. I actually thought he earned more opportunities, but for some reason, they went to him a few times in the first quarter. He caught everything. I don't remember him dropping a ball or a ball being incomplete to Luke Schoonmaker. But then all of a sudden, they went away from it. And I don't know if you remember me talking about this a couple of days ago, but I thought, hey, if Jake Ferguson plays today, he's going to have a great matchup. He's going to be able to take advantage of this. So I thought the tight end would actually be able to make some headway in this game against the Saints defense. And then to see Luke Schoonmaker have early success and say, oh my God, okay, so my scouting report is right here. They're going to use Schoonmaker might have 8 catches today. And then they just went away from it completely. And I don't understand why the Cowboys tend to find things that are working and then go away from it completely. When the Saints found something that was working, they kept doing it. They kept doing those short drops. Even on the deep drop, though, no pressure at all. Derek Carr had a clean pocket all day. Also, on the upside, I want to give Brandon Aubrey, too. He made all his field goals. He tried his best. Like I said, if this was a game where the defense made a few stops, and maybe instead of 35-19 when he makes that field goal, if your defense makes a few stops, maybe it's 27-19. Maybe it's 24-19. If your defense comes to play and your kicker keeps you in it, and now all of a sudden you're one big play from getting right back in the game and maybe even taking a lead. So this is, I know everybody likes to give Mike McCarthy crap when he talks about complementary football, but this is what he's talking about. If your special teams doesn't really do anything, but they don't necessarily turn the ball over, keep you in decent field position, and your offense, even though they're struggling a little bit, they're putting some points on the board. They're scoring a drive. They're scoring 16 points in the first half. That's on pace for 32 points in the game. That's enough. You should be in the game at halftime if your offense has put up 16 points. Even if you're losing, you should be in the game. But complementary football, and football is the ultimate team sport, no matter what happens with your offense, no matter what happens with your special teams, if one of your facets of your team falters and they falter too hard, right? You can falter. You can have a bad day defensively. But a bad day defensively is, oh man, we let 21 points up in the first half. We let 24 points up in the first half. Well, if that happens, your Cowboys are actually still in the game. Our defense didn't have a bad day. They had like a historically bad day. The Cowboys actually let up the most points, tied for the most points in the first half in team history. The Cowboys have been around since the 60s. Let that sink in. The Cowboys have been around since the 60s. I'm not gone. I just wanted to give it a second. So you're talking hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of games. And this is the second time ever that we've ever allowed that many points in the first half. So, like I said, I'm not one to make too many snap judgments based off of a game in September, your second game of the season, and being some of the things that I'm pointing out about it being historic and that this doesn't usually happen and this is the second time and God knows how many. I mean, if you just go over the course, I know we just got the 17 games, but over the course of 10 years, it's 160 games. Cowboys have been around since the 60s. You're talking about 60 years, 160 games for every 10 years. Do that math, man. It's like 700 games, and the Cowboys have only done this twice, and today was one of those days. So, I mean, you're going to get a lot of sky is falling because, unfortunately, when it comes to the Cowboys, we all know what happens, and if we don't, I'm going to say it here for you, and we'll get to know it as we go along. When they win, they're never going to lose, right? That's how the media portrays it. That's how the people covering the team portray it. Oh my God, they look so awesome. Oh my God, they're going to beat this team next week, and they're going to beat that team this week, and they're going to beat that team. That's how you portray it. And then when they lose, they're never going to win again. Oh my God, this team is so bad. In the NFL, a loss is a loss, right? So that's the levity of the situation. It doesn't matter if you lost by 2 points. It doesn't matter if you lost by 30 points. A loss is a loss. You're going to lose, if you lost this week, you lost this week. Doesn't mean that you don't have a chance to win next week. So we'll put that in the bag. We'll put a bow on that. You know what I'm saying? Schoonmaker, CeeDee Lamb, and Brandon Aubrey are my goods from the game. And then I feel like everything else is bad. I know Mike McCarthy likes to talk about, we want to learn from every piece of film. I do feel like this is a game where you can learn from. We will get a chance to see if they have learned from it, because even though the Baltimore Ravens have a completely different style of offense, so you won't learn much there. The Steelers have a completely different style of offense. The Giants have a completely different style of offense. So for the next few weeks, the Cowboys will be facing a different type of opponent. But then we're going to get to that point where we're playing the Detroit Lions, where we're playing the 49ers, where we're playing the Houston Texans. Those are all games that are on the horizon too. So we're going to get to find out if the Cowboys learn from this, because those are the teams that have better personnel than the Saints that'll be able to replicate what the Saints did against us offensively and see if the Cowboys have found an answer. And I hope by then that they have found an answer. I hope there's a lot of self-scout going on, and I hope that there's a lot of soul-searching, and I hope that, and this is not just by the defensive players. This is also by the coaches, because the coaches didn't do their job today when it comes to putting players in a position to succeed, right? That's the coach's job. Now, the players after that, they have to line up and do what they do. If I'm a defensive coordinator, I'm not lining Micah Parsons up at defensive end, knowing what the Saints have been doing on the edge all game long, and letting the guard and the tackle and the fullback plus the running back come his way, and only having him there to set the edge, and then Trayvon Diggs out there to turn the run inside. But now, because there's two blockers still running free, how is Eric Kendrick supposed to get there? How is Maris Leofau supposed to get there? I'm not setting that up the same way again. Like, if I'm Dallas, for example, one of the small adjustments I would have made is lining Micah Parsons up in a wide 9, right? You line him up in a wide 9. You take him extremely wide to the outside in the 9 gap, and then you take the defensive tackle, right, to his same side, especially since you know they're hunting him, and you line him up between the guard and the tackle, right? And then you take the linebacker up and you put him right behind them, and then you take the strong safety and you put him probably right in the linebacker spot. So that if you see at the snap of the ball that the receivers are actually going out en route, right? You can have that safety rotate back and drop deep, and everybody drop into the zones, and Micah Parsons can rush based off of that wide 9. But also, if you end up seeing that, oh my God, here comes that running back, here comes that tackle, here comes that tight end. Now Micah Parsons is lined up wide, right? So he's on the outside shoulder of those people instead of being on the inside shoulder and being walled off for the run to go. So now the run has to tie in earlier, but now instead of having a small Micah Parsons out there, you have a defensive tackle who's normally used to commanding double teams, and then you have a safety and a linebacker over there to be able to stop that run. Now, that's just me. Maybe the Saints counter that after they see it a couple of times, but at least we would make them switch to a counter, right? But I'm not a defensive coordinator. These are just the things I see after the fact. It's easy to play armchair quarterback after something has happened, as opposed to making the adjustments in the heat of the moment when everything's going on, when you're getting blown out, when you're getting killed. But yeah, like I said, that's it. I'm off on my tangent. That's all I got for you guys. Thank you for tuning in. If you like the show, hit the like button, subscribe so you know when I'm coming on. You know, we're almost at 20. We're at 19. We're almost there. So please, please, please hit the subscribe button. Hit the like button. Please, please, please. I implore you. I know, begging for likes, begging for subscribes. Yes, I am. Here I am. Thank you guys. You are always here. You're always listening. You're always tuning in. You can hit me up on Twitter at JMiller, IYL. That's JMiller if you like. You can also hit me up via email, knockersonthebottom@outlook.com. Again, that's knockersonthebottom@outlook.com. You know, I'll take questions there. I'll take them, you know, via Twitter. I'll take them via the comment section below. Give me anything that you want me to cover. I'll make sure to cover it. You know, we could throw it in the mailbag segment, make it a regular thing. But thank you guys. Love you guys. Thank you for tuning in. Till next time, I'm your host, J Mill. J Miller if you like. Knockers on the bottom. Peace.